Today we will discuss auditing standards for Islamic financial institution number 2. We will discuss the auditor reports, what are the kind of reports we have in our Islamic rules and regulations. I'll give you a brief introduction about the topic today. Then we will discuss the basic element of audit report, like it should have a title, it is addressee to someone, it is signed by someone, it has certain paragraphs. What are these paragraphs? I'm going to explain you just now. What kind of audit reports we have, what are the general formats, how much standardized it is, this is we will see. What is the concept of a modified report? We will see that once we are doing audit, what are the matters that affect the auditor opinion and what are those matters which do not affect the auditor opinions. We'll see what are the circumstances that can lead to a client a negative opinion, like a qualified opinion, unqualified opinion, or disclaimer and no decision. This is what we will discuss. And what is the concept of when it is effective and how it is and when it is adopted as a standard. This is the discussion of today's lecture. Purpose of auditing standards for financial institutions is to establish standards and provide framework guidelines and the content of audit reports to create a benchmark and to adopt a quality process for all the entities in compliance with Sharia law and principles. Auditor should review and assess the conclusions that is drawn from the audit evidence. Now once the full process will be, of course, this way. When you as auditor will go to the entity of financial institution, you have pre-assessments before your audit. You will prepare an audit engagement. You will agree on certain rules and regulations, terms and conditions, and then you will be doing a proper audit with their testing tools, and you will with the aim to get some audit evidences. So whatever as an auditor you should review and assess the conclusion drawn from the evidences that was being gathered during the audit process, and you check the adequacy of these opinions on the financial statements. Let's discuss the basic elements of an audit report, which every audit report should have a title. If you compare the conventional audit report and if you see the Islamic audit report, formats are little bit similar because it's create a genuine benchmark and it goes side by side. We should have a title for the audit report. Then we should have an addressee, that whom this report is going to address. Then it should start with the opening paragraph, that what this company, it is the scope of this is as an opening. Then we will define the scope paragraph, that what was the scope of the audit. In external audits, of course, the scope is already defined, but if there is any internal audit or any specific engagement, then you have to define in other ways your scope of the audit as well. Then you will see that which standards has been applied and what are the national standards and practices. Then you will see a brief description of the work, that how you perform. You will express the opinion on the financial statements. The audit report should have a date of report. It should have auditor address, auditor signatures, and it should be like a uniformity in order to have a better understanding to the rest of the world, so they can standardize, they can follow a standardized format for this. I'll briefly explain one by one all these things. Auditor should have an appropriate title, that is the audit report for the year. Audit should be appropriately addressed as required by circumstances of the engagement and local laws and regulations. This is very important. The Sharia law and Islamic law prevail all over the world, and which part of the world you are, which country, You have to comply with local laws and regulations in order to have, if there is some mismatch between, of course, this has to be brought in the notice of the authorities and it has to be fixed for the longer gains. But as we cannot avoid the local laws and regulation, and you should have an ample knowledge, ability to understand these things. Now, auditor report should identify certain things like the financial institution. You should write in this, identify the financial statements of the financial institution that has been audited, including the date or the period covered, like financial year, this year, starting from this to this. This is we should mention in audit report. And then we should undertake to operate in accordance with Islamic laws, rules. This audit has been conducted, this report is issued according to in compliance with Islamic rules, principles, and responsibility of the financial statement is on the management, and auditor responsibility is to express an opinion about the adequacy of these financial statements, and auditor should have the true and fair view. You can download from website any Islamic financial institution financial statements, so you will have an example of the financial statement in detail. It will give an overview about how it goes. But in our text, there is a certain language given which we have audited the accompanying statement of financial position of this institution from this period to this period in compliance with this Sharia law, this law, accounting standards. So it is just like a general template which is standard for all the financial institutions. When we are going to define the scope paragraph should state that audit was conducted in accordance with ASIFIS and the relevant national standards and practices as appropriate, and it do not contravene the Sharia rules and principle in any capacity, because that is the supreme rules and regulations and we have to follow in any case. Audit report should include that audit was planned and performed to obtain reasonable assurance. Now, reasonable assurance, I already made it very clear that this is based on a sampling mode and it may expect certain kind of later discrepancies, but as of today, anything does not arise in the knowledge of an auditor which feel him that there is some material misstatement in the financial statement, so he give always a reasonable assurance. He should also mention that this is done on test basis, sample basis, and then he prepare the financial statements in terms of compliance with auditing standard, accounting standards, and he will evaluate overall financial statements presentation, that how we show the assets, liability, equities, and other expenses and income, and certain others technical accounting terms which we will discuss in the accounting portions. So we can say that as a scope we will write a paragraph. We conduct our audit in accordance with accounting standards for Islamic financial institutions. These standards require that we plan, perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance. And audit include examining on test basis evidence supporting disclosure in the financial statements, as typically all the requirements in terms of the scopes. When it comes to opinion paragraph, now this is very important to understand the opinion paragraphs. Opinion is very important because in a regulatory framework, auditor opinion is very prime and very much important for an entity. If auditor is satisfied about the testings, control, and his audit evidences says that there is no material misstatements, he will give an unqualified opinion. Unqualified opinion is a good opinion in general, but it may be opposite. During the audit he found certain discrepancies, some non-adherence, and he finds some material issues. So he is, and it qualifies for a qualified report. So then it will be a big issue for the entity, of course. They have to work around that why it arises, what are the main causes for it. Sometimes we don't have evidences, so we cannot express an opinion, so we have to